Welcome. How are you today? Valerie Pugsley here, and I help business owners and growth-minded individuals get clarity, renew their mind, and see things from a different perspective so they can earn more, serve more, and have a greater impact. Right now, I'm doing a 5-day challenge to hacking your brain, and today is day 4. So just to do a recap before we talk about language and stories, which is today's topic. On Monday, and actually I just realized I have my AC on. I'm going to turn it off real quick so that we don't have to compete with the noise there. Sorry about that. I meant to do that earlier. Okay. So Monday we just talked about how powerful our brain is. And then Tuesday, we talked about, let me check my notes here. Oh, the fact that we've been lied to, and we've lied to other people. Now, not always intentionally. It's just part of the nature of our brains and the way we were raised and things like that. And how we can recognize it. And what's kind of a truth for all of these things is first just realizing and capturing these thoughts and things captive so that we can change things. And then yesterday we talked about addictions and how we can become addicted to our emotions. I know we all know somebody who's like always living in a crisis, or all the bad things happen to them. Some of that could be the result of an addiction to the particular emotion that they get in those environments. Now, not that they consciously want that, but on a subconscious level and a chemical level within the brain, it's something that happens, but we can change it. And that's the cool thing about all of these things. We can change it. We do need to be intentional with our thoughts and actively renewing our minds. So let's go ahead and get started with today's topic, which is language. And language matters so much. We tell ourselves so many stories. So somebody the other day was telling me that they always say to themselves, it will never work, and they won't want to buy. And what happens is as soon as we tell ourselves that, then we are going to behave in such a way to make it true. And it won't work. There's a quote, I think it's Henry Ford, said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And because we don't want to be hurt, and because we don't want to be hurt, we want to protect ourselves. A lot of times we default to the can't. We'll use the word try a lot. I'll try. And what Yoda says, there's do or do not, there is no try. What happens when we tell ourselves we try, we're actually using that word to give ourselves a way out, a way of escape in case it doesn't work, because of the feelings and the emotions that are the stories that we've written about when something doesn't work. So let's talk about that. If we say it didn't work, how are we viewing that? Are we using that as failure? Are we what stories are we writing about that it didn't work? Then I'm not good enough, I'm less than. These are the stories that we write about things, and it may not be true. Well, it didn't work, so what can I do next time? Or how can I do something differently? What can I change? If we look at things not working as just feedback, then we know we need to tweak and change things a little bit. Wasn't it the story with Thomas Edison, how many times he tried things and they didn't it didn't work? If he'd given up after the first 5 or 10 times because he failed and it's not going to work, but he was telling himself something different than I can't or that it won't work. Another client, oh, I know, here's one that I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were debating whether they were going to go someplace, and they had said they didn't want to go because the people there would pity them. Well, first of all, using that word in and of itself, how debilitating is that? That it doesn't help us in any way to be thinking that. And I asked this person, I said, why do you say that? And I said, and they were telling me reasons, and I said, well, those people don't even know any of that, and when you see them, they're not going to be thinking any of those things. They're probably more concerned about themselves than they are about you. And that's typically the case, is that people are more concerned about themselves than they are us. So I just want to address this one about they won't buy. I think sometimes as business owners, we go into a situation and we're thinking about ourselves and how we want to make some money by selling this product. But then who's it about? It's about us and not about the other person. If we go to the business and find out, hey, what's going on in their business? What's working well for them right now? What's not working so well? Maybe our product can solve that problem. Maybe our product won't solve their immediate problem, but maybe we know somebody else who does. So we connect them with that person, and then we go check back later and see how it went. I think we have this mentality, this story that we've written for ourselves, that we need to go in and talk to somebody and close the deal all at once. There's a whole lot more to that, but then now I'm realizing I'm digressing on a whole sales thing. But we just really need to be careful of the things we said. Another story I've heard recently is somebody said, I can't afford it. Again, we use that story to protect ourselves. If something dire happened to a family member and you had to come up with some money within a certain amount of time or that person would die, would you be able to come up with the money? Most of us would. We could figure out a way. We'd figure out some way to get the money. And that's true of anything that's important to us, but our automatic default to protect ourselves is to say, I can't afford it. If it's really important, we can find ways to afford it. Another client I had was selling himself when he was contacting people that it was awkward. He thought he was being awkward. And as we examined that, where did that come from? It came from one incident as a child on a soccer field with a coach and other players. That one incident was still playing in the background because the story he wrote as a child about what that meant, that incident meant, which it probably didn't mean that at all, and that was umpteen years ago, was still running with him today. So we really need to be careful of the words we're using and the things we're saying. So in this person's case, that they were awkward, he has a service that he's wanting to use to help people. We need to understand the value that that service brings to somebody and realize that I have something that can help these people. And if we come at it from a perspective of helping and serving, we're going to have more success in creating that sale. If something is really important, there was a conference that I wanted to go to recently. It was going to be challenging financially, but I really, really wanted to go. I found a way. I was able to ask somebody if I could use their frequent flyer miles. They said yes. I was able to get a very inexpensive room, and I made it work for a very reasonable amount. It was very important, and I think it was crucial. The connections I made there, the things I learned, very much worth the investment. Here's another word that we use a lot. You say, oh, I'm going to spend this. I'm going to spend some time. I'm going to kill some time. That's like the worst language we could be using, right? Because time is our only asset that we can't get any more of. It's limited. So do we want to spend it or kill it, or do we want to invest it? And I think as we start using language that serves and builds us up more, if we're going to invest time, we're really going to look at what we're doing and say, is this going to be a good investment? Is this going to be a good use of my time for bigger things down the line, not just the immediate future? A lot of times, so the first step with all of this, just like before, is recognizing the language that you're using. So what I want to challenge you today is to start catching things you say. If you say something like, I'm too, I can't, it won't, any of those things, catch that's that first trigger. Catch that thought captive, recognize it and catch it captive, and then reframe it into something else. A lot of times we'll say, oh, I can't do this, but was there another time when you did do that very thing you just said you can't? Or something that I heard recently, and I'm still playing with, but I'll share this with you behind the scenes and you can play with it too, is ask yourself the question, what if I could? And I was actually talking to somebody else the other day and they were saying, well, I want to use what if I can, because if I use the word can, then I'm taking ownership. And I understand the value in that, and I think that can be good at times. But if internally we're not sure that we can, then it's not going to help us. So I'm going to go back to the what if I could, XYZ, whatever that thing is that you're accomplishing. For example, somebody was saying they won't buy. What if I could show them how valuable this is and how it will serve their business? What if I could provide enough value that they would want to buy? What if I could build a relationship so that they'll buy in the future? What if I could fill this program? What if I could get 5 more clients by such and such a time? What if I could? And then believe that it's possible. And then as we start doing that, we'll start behaving and acting in ways to have a more likelihood of accomplishing it. It does take work. It takes being intentional in our thoughts. But I have seen over and over, just doing different things with language, how it can change things. A few years back, I needed a new car. My car finally died. I needed it. The finances that I was experiencing at that time when I'd said it hadn't changed a lot, and yet we were able to find a way to get the new car, and we got a great deal. And it's just a matter of how we're programming our brain. What words are we using? Are they empowering us and building us up? Or are they tearing us down and making us feel negative? What stories are we writing? Are we making up stories that aren't true to protect ourselves from being hurt or maybe not getting the results that we want? Or are we creating stories that empower us? This is especially true. I just want to throw one more thing in here before we wrap up things today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments below or in the comment section. And if I don't get to it while we're live, I'll definitely get back to it afterwards, and replay viewers as well. But one more thing I want to do is, like the person I was telling you about who was saying they'll pity me, they were writing a story about what other people were thinking. Until we talk to somebody and ask them what were they thinking, we don't know. We have no idea what they're thinking. And yet we so often write a story about what somebody is thinking, and we have no clue. So I'll encourage you additionally in terms of the stories, is if you're feeling some way or thinking some way or thinking someone thinks this about you, unless you've gone and talked to them, you don't know. So if it's an important relationship, then I would encourage you to go talk to them and say, hey, by the way, what do you think about this or think about that? And you may find out it's totally different than what you thought. So these are some areas I want to encourage you in to recognize, change it, reframe it. This, along with the other things that we've talked about, and a lot more stuff, is what I'm going to be talking about in the or teaching on in the Renewing Your Mind. It's a transformational collaborative that will be starting in September. It's a combination group coaching and mastermind environment. So I would, if you've been watching these and these are helping you, then I highly encourage you to check that out and do what you can to get into that, so that you can make the rest of this year the best of part of this year, and you can start next year ramped up, ready to go, and full steam ahead. We are all important, we all matter, and we all have value to add to the world and the people around us. And I want to empower you to be able to do that. And I believe that our mindset and the things that we think and the way we think is so foundational. And we need to stop beating ourselves up, understanding how our brain works, and use it the way it was designed. So thanks for joining me today. Thanks for watching the replay. Again, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. And there's one more of this series tomorrow. We're going to be talking about clarity. If you want to get notified for that, there's also a link in the description for that. You can click on that, and just before I go live, you'll get a notice that it's starting, so you can have that reminder. All right, as you can see, this one's longer, so I really believe this is really important, and I hope you'll work on that today. All right, bye for now.